Hey everyone, it's Ahilan. I'm the guy who runs the Geoverse channel. Um, and this video is going to be a little different. It's going to be a lot longer. And it's essentially an interview with Karan Menon, um, a National Geographic Bee champion and someone who I think knows a lot about geography and how it applies to our daily lives. And so the channel is going to be pivoting a bit more towards long form content like this. Um, and so just let me know your thoughts on it. And essentially, the goal is to just give people an in-depth exploration of what geography is actually used for and what career paths people who study geography end up taking. And so just let me know your thoughts.
All right. Hi guys. Thanks for watching. Today I'm going to be talking with Karan, who has graciously agreed to give some of his time. Thanks for that. And so Karan, if you could just really introduce yourself really quick and what your relation to geography is.
Hi, so my name is Karan Menon. I'm originally from Edison, New Jersey, currently living in Seattle. In the geography world, I'm most known as the 2015 National Geographic Bee champion, but I've been a geographer my whole life. I started reading my first atlases and maps when I was 3 years old and was really fascinated about learning about the world, how it works, the different people and their cultures, the natural beauty, etc. And when I was a kid, I first started competing in competitions through the North-South Foundation. And eventually I entered both the Nat Geo Bee and also USGO. I was the 2015 JV USGO national champion, and in 2019, I also won the US Nationals of the International Geography Bee. Apart from that, I graduated with a bachelor's in computer science from the University of Southern California, and today I work as a data scientist at Microsoft.
Yeah. So a lot of accomplishments. Sounds like you're in a great place right now. And so I guess the first question I want to ask is, why do you choose originally to go into the geography bee and all these other geography competitions? We made USGO content on the channel before, so viewers are also familiar with that. So what brought you, what drew you to these kinds of competitions?
Well, there's a fun story, and then there's also like the actual practical meat of it as well. So the fun story is like most Indian parents, my parents tried to get me into the spelling bee when I was 5 years old because like Indians were known for competing in the spelling bee, and then obviously like a lot of my mom's friends were in it. So I was like, sure, I'll participate in the spelling bee. And then so we signed up for a spelling bee with the North South Foundation, which if you guys aren't familiar, is like kind of like a little league where they do like practice competitions for the spelling bee, geography bee, math counts, etc. And historically, it was only for Indian American kids. So yeah, I signed up for an NSF spelling bee. It was located about an hour and a half from where I lived in New Jersey. And basically on the way there, our car broke down, and by the time we were actually able to get the car patched up, and like one of our family friends was able to drive us to the bee, by then the spelling bee was over. So I missed that. And then my mom talked to the organizers and was like, hey, like we drove like an hour and a half to get here. Is there something that he can do? And the only competition left turned out to be a geography bee. So I competed in my first geography bee then, and with no preparation, I came second. And I remember looking at the questions, and I was like, wow, I read about these like US states and countries from all the books that I read and all the maps that I did. And I was like, wow, I'm like really interested in it. And at that moment is when I realized that, hey, I like geography. I want to learn more about things. But I always had a natural curiosity to learn about the world, and so I felt like geography was a tool to explore like far away places. And one of the best things about geography is that I feel like it's in everything. It connects to everything. Like there's connection to history, to science. Even you can find a connection to computer science as well, which is really cool.
Yeah. And yeah, geography is just so applicable, like in pretty much every like
Mhm.
aspect of things. And so when you came, like going off that data science and computer science note, when you came to USC, did you like continue this geography involvement that you had in like middle school and high school? And if not, like how was geography relevant in like your life as a college student and going to internships and classes and eventually coming to Microsoft to work? Like, how have you seen geography becoming relevant?
So when I got to college, I feel like the sad reality is that in a lot of like colleges across the US, there isn't really much of a geography focus. Some schools like UCLA and Dartmouth have geography majors and minors. Mine didn't. We didn't have a geography club as well. So I didn't really have access to that. And also a lot of the geography competitions like USGO and the Nat Geo Bee are only for middle schoolers and high schoolers. So I lost the opportunity to compete. Nevertheless, like when it came to academic competitions, I feel like my geography knowledge was still pretty much in use. I continued playing in Quiz Bowl in college, and geography was my strong subject. I also liked going to pub trivia for fun. But I think the way that even if you're not like actively doing any like geography related activity or extracurricular, I think geography like really shapes your lens on how you view the world. And it really helps you like understand other places, understand other backgrounds. In my time at USC, so just to backtrack here, I grew up in Edison, New Jersey, a town that is um, almost entirely Asian and specifically Indian. So I wasn't really exposed to as much diversity. But when I came to USC, like I met so many people from other countries, and LA itself is a very diverse city. So I was able to meet different people from different places and connect to the backgrounds. I also think that geography, with my knowledge, I got a good theoretical and practical knowledge of geography, and then in the real world it made me explore. I knew about like uh different cultures, different places. So when I was finally living on my own, I would try out new cuisines all the time, and I would try out listen to different genres of music, and it was cool, like because I'd learned about these things when I was studying for the bee, and now I was experiencing it in real life. And then I also like to travel a lot, so being a geographer can help you plan itineraries really well. And I also would say I have a good understanding of whatever is happening around the world. Like it gives me a good understanding of geopolitics and international relations, and even like domestic issues that are happening in the US. And um, like I think it's really important to understand like how place connects with politics, with society, with people, with history, with science, etc. Like it really like deepens your understanding of the subject. And I think that even if you're not like Joe Biden or any other politician, or even if you're not petroleum engineer fracking in Texas and North Dakota, like I think it's a picture of what's going on. In terms of my career, I would say that computer science isn't necessarily the most related to geography, but the reason why I chose going into computer science is because um, geography was something that I found that applied to everything. And I also found that computer science, and particularly my interest in like AI and machine learning, is something that can apply to any kind of problem as well, and something that you can apply to geography because so many computer algorithms out there are using geographical data. Also, a lot of times you're analyzing like places, analyzing culture, and analyzing historical data, etc. And when I was in college, and it's made for some cool projects. Like when I was in college, I actually worked on an earth science related coded project where I was looking at like geographical factors in LA and like how they impacted like air pollution levels, which is a really cool application. And right now I work in Microsoft. At Microsoft, I wouldn't say that anything I do directly involves geography, but I do plan on I do really want to work on projects that like apply like things that I learned in geography, and like touch the application of geography in the long term. So one of the areas that I've branched out to, thanks to my interest in geography, is endangered languages, which is something that I did touch on when I was studying for these competitions. I'm really like I like linguistics in general, and a cause that I care about is learning about endangered languages and how to um, preserve them. So one particular language that I became passionate about is this language called Kurvan Hindustani, which is spoken by the descendants of indentured laborers in a couple Caribbean countries like Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, etc. And obviously, I learned about these places and a lot of background knowledge about these places from my geography adventures. And then so like I had a lot of background about it, but then I taught myself the language. And in the long term, like I've been helping out organizations with translations and preservation efforts. And in the long term, my goal is I want to make a project that uses like my computer science, AI knowledge to make this language more accessible to younger generations. And because a lot of these endangered languages have very limited resources, with computer technology, you can better understand these languages and also generate more resources to document the language using AI and ML. So that's basically like a short summary of like all of the applications of geography that I did in college and beyond even today.
It's really cool. It's wonderful that you've maintained that passion you've had for learning about other cultures, even past when you were competing in these competitions.
Thank you.
That reflects with the project that you're doing right now with endangered languages. And so, what I want to pivot to next, now that everyone has a kind of general overview of who you are, is kind of just talking about specific details. And so I noticed how you kind of said like geography specifically, like for example, you're not working on anything in Microsoft, but something I've been thinking about and have wanted to talk about is how geography essentially is the study of our world, right? Like that's what the word literally translates to. Um,
Exactly.
when you can see, like, as you've kind of touched upon, how it kind of ties to pretty much every university class, like, if you, or any subject in general, like, even with stuff like chemistry or the chemistry, for example, like, there'll be like physical, like, concepts that came up as questions in the B, and physics, gravitational orbit, um, biology, the environment. There's just so many things that we covered through our study of geography that allow us to then springboard
For
in
sure.
a lot of other subjects.
So I just wanted to backtrack and ask you, like, you were thinking a lot about geography's impacts on DEI. So what are some of the things that you're considering? Like, I'll let you go first, and then I'll respond with my opinion on
Sure.
DEI.
And so I think really an understanding of geography is important to understanding um, how to uplift people um, and bring diverse voices to the table. And so not just looking at vague, frankly, broad checkboxes that really don't describe an applicant's lived experiences to a job or to anything really. And instead being able to consider the nuances of zip code, or how these vast blankets we throw for race and ethnicity often don't do justice to the diversity of cultures and identities that fall within them, and how maybe using geography could improve our ability to really recognize people who haven't had the opportunity to be recognized because of socioeconomic inequalities in our country. And yeah, so what are your thoughts?
So I really commend this idea. I think there's so much geography that can be analyzed. I think, yeah, like sometimes we loop different groups into these wider categories. Like we'll say, oh, Asian Americans, model minority, all Asians are smart, right? But then you can look at the demographics and see like differences between like Hmong Americans and Indian Americans, for example. And those those disparities have a lot of different factors, including when and how, for what reasons they migrated to the US, what level, what socioeconomic status classes they had in their original countries, and also like the places in the United States where they tended to settle. And I think you mentioned zip codes. I think zip codes are like where spatially these people are located in the United States is very important to consider, because um, like whatever each part of the US has its own culture, but each part of the US has um, their own geography and human population patterns that will affect people's lives and ultimately their decisions to apply to college. Um, like for example, in the state of Oregon, you'll see that most of the population is located in the valley of the Willamette River, like cities like Eugene and Portland, for example. And historically, people settled there because of the access to the rivers and the farming, and then eventually these large cities um, started there. And then now Portland is like a big hub of the like computer engineering, silicon, hardware industry. So all of these are factors as to why these areas have populations that can explain like the socioeconomic groups of people. You can go down a long rabbit hole because there are many different factors, and you can even debate whether it's causation or correlation. So it's something that needs to be broken down into a lot of specifics there. But you can also consider the location of the colleges itself, because if you look at where it stands um, among the region that it's in, the community that it's in, what's around, that very much affects the character of these colleges and institutions, and also how how they the schools are established and how they like choose who to admit. Like I would say like location plays a factor in how Duke University is quite different from the University of Washington. And it's not just like geography is not just about like spatial location. Like you have to consider like the human geography, the political geography. That's why, like for example, in California, um, like schools will have higher percentages of Asian Americans, not only because California is a huge Asian American demographic, but also politically because both through a Supreme Court case and a referendum, affirmative action has been declared illegal in California, even before the recent Supreme Court decision. Like there are many factors like that that can come into play. And I think because there's too many factors, I think if we can study one factor at a time and find a methodology to examine like how geography affects diversity and how we can um, harness geography to improve diversity, that would be a good thing to do in the future.
Yeah, and part of why I want to like discuss this topic is because I think when people ask questions like why diversity is important, it kind of ties back to the question of why geography is important, because diversity means a diversity of lived experiences coming to the table to work on something. And having people from different cultures and different backgrounds gives you the largest possible pool to like take ideas out of. People might be more familiar with a certain situation than other people based on their socioeconomic status or ethnicity. And I think being able to recognize and value those types of things is really important, not just in college admissions, but
100%.
creating a workplace or just in general in life. You want to be surrounded by people with ideas different from you and who are willing to disagree with you, I think. And so that again kind of comes full circle and ties back to the big question of like why geography is important. It's the same reason why diversity is important and why um, being able to have people who you can come to compromise with is important. And going on the topic of compromise, my next question is um, we are in a more globalized world than ever before. Um, and this is something my viewers and you have probably encountered. But there's been a lot of disagreements, nonviolent and violent in person and online, about certain geopolitical conflicts that are going on in the world right now. And based on your own just knowledge of geography, coming as a person who's probably a little more familiar with these regions than the average voter or person in general, um, what do you think people should do to be informed about these kinds of things and come to their own opinions about like these types of things and how the US should be involved in international affairs?
So I think like understanding all of these political situations that is going on requires a lot of like geopolitical analysis. So you have to look at like these regions, what are the ethnic groups and cultural groups here, what are the geography, the physical geography of this place, and how does it affect how the conflict is occurring, what is surrounding this region, and how that affects what's happening. And so like I would recommend the average American to read more about these places, where they're located, why are they important, who lives there, what is the history of people's interactions with that place. And the thing is, like a lot of times these conflicts can be overly simplified. It's like one side is good, one side is bad, right? But when it comes to conflicts, there's a lot of nuance that you can only understand when you delve deep into the history, the geography, etc. And however, one caveat that I have here is a lot of like the compiled historical and geographical knowledge has been compiled by people in the global north, and often can be either Eurocentric or like America centered, and oftentimes that also leaves out vital perspectives um, as well, because like for example, with North America, we think of North America as this land that was discovered by the Europeans, but then we don't really consider the indigenous history as much, for example. But so I think it's important to keep these perspectives in mind, and so I would recommend maintaining an open mind for that reason. But that being said, I think the average person can definitely learn a lot more, but I think that change needs to occur on a societal level as well. I think in general, the geography not being emphasized in the American education system is a big problem, because um, people don't really know much about these places until they hear it from someone else or hear it on the news. And while while these sorts of communications are great at getting like certain piece of information to large numbers of people, they're often overly simplified. And one news article can tell you like all the context you need to know, and can give you all the information that you need to make an educated decision. So I think it's really up to local governments, state governments, national governments to start emphasizing geography, whether it's just becomes a greater component of social studies education, or whether it becomes another class. And I think more popular interaction with geographers in society and geography adjacent roles in society uh, um, can make a huge impact as well. I think traditionally, National Geographic did a really good job of educating the world about diverse locales, and the National Geographic Bee was a great initiative that got millions of US kids educated about geography. But nowadays, National Geographic is studying as an is struggling, not studying, struggling as an organization, and also unfortunately, the bee has been um, discontinued, which is very tragic. I think we need more sorts of initiatives like that in society to really get people energized. And it's not just about governments. I think influential organizations and people should also come on board as well, because um, that will make a bigger difference, and that will relay the message that geography is important, that you should consider these topics.
Yeah, I think geography would help a lot of people realize the reality that the world is, a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
conflicts are gray. There's some that are pretty black and white, but a lot of them, even those aren't very like hard black and hard white. They're more maybe a lighter black and a darker white. Um, and a disadvantage of not having geography education is that people are unable to um, discern that. And going off that black and white comparison, um, data is a very powerful tool, but it's been used on social media a lot to drive algorithms that feed users certain content. And so just one video that's super biased on TikTok could lead you to getting an algorithm full of very biased videos. And the same could be said for Twitter or Facebook. And so knowing that the average American probably doesn't have the time to thoroughly search Britannica or Wikipedia to learn about these places, what do you maybe suggest as like resources for people to like get some perspective about like these kinds of things? I know you said like maybe reading the news would be a good place to start. Do you have any suggestions?
I think reading the news is a good place to start. And then um what I would suggest is like be curious. Like when you read about a place, when you read about like a society or like a conflict, try to delve a bit deeper. One thing that I recommend is don't like get all information from one source, because there can be biases. And biases are a good thing, because it's good to get different people's perspectives in the picture. But if you only look at one biased set of information, you're not getting the whole picture. So that's the first thing. But there are a lot of great creators out there who are trying to break down these overall issues, concepts, etc. For one, like I used to watch Geography Now when I was a kid. I think that's a great channel in terms of explaining all these places around the world and a little bit of factors around them. And I know that you yourself have been doing a lot of geography educational content. So if people can consume that on media, that would be great. I think there are also like different TikTok accounts about and TikTok and Reels content about geography and different places and different conflicts as well. So just be curious and explore these different types of things. But in general, like it's also social interaction can play a huge role. Like open your mind to meeting people from different sorts of places, because our society is really that diverse. And maybe if you look if you look at people just based on their skin color, based on where they live or what they work, you might not be able to see the diversity. But if you talk to people about their backgrounds and their stories, there's so much you can delve into.
Yeah,
So I think having conversations with different groups of people is important as well.
yeah, and thanks a lot for the advice, Karan. I think those are some great first steps to learning more about these geopolitical issues and becoming a more informed person and citizen and voter. And I think that's something that helps every American and every person in general when participating in their different governmental systems.
For sure.
We've we're close to time, so we're gonna call it off. But I wanted to just thank Karan for your time again. Um, and this was incredibly informative. Um, do you have any last words for the geographically curious watcher?
Sure. Yeah, so thank you, Ahilan, for inviting me to your YouTube. I really admire the work that you're doing, and it was a lot of fun talking to you and explaining my own perspectives on geography. Um, this Despite not um, working as a geographer or a cartographer or directly in GIS, I'm someone who finds geography all around me. And I'm still someone who's very much curious about the world. So for all you geography intrigued people, I really think that keep asking questions, keep learning about the world around you. Be proud of your geography knowledge and also your geography interests. And you don't have to be like a winner of a National Geographic Bee to explore. Like no matter like start small, no matter how much you know. Um, the intention, the curiosity, the open mind is what matters. Every little bit of information that you know and every little perspective that you consider um, will ultimately help you become a global citizen. If everyone starts doing this a step at a time, I really believe that we will have a more perfect society.
Yeah, thank you. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button as per usual. And thank you, Karan, again. And thanks for watching.